So, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Vineet Sehgal, and welcome to this session in Unacademy, where we would discuss the questions that are asked in the ophthalmology in our this session. That is the paper that was held on 11th of June 2020. So, as all of you must have given this paper, and whatever the analysis I have seen in this paper, so last 3 years, this is the most difficult paper of ophthalmology that has come. So in total, there were 9 questions directly related or indirectly related to ophthalmology. And since it is one day and we have asked about one image-based question that was asked, and there is a slight discrepancy upon the what is the exact image that was asked. Similarly, in the one question which was regarding superior oblique palsy or inferior oblique palsy, we were having a slight confusion about what was the exact language it was written, whether it was a hypotropia or it was a hypertropia, and which tilt it was given. So this controversy would always remain because the paper is now gone and the AIMS is not going to release the paper, and whatever we get is the input from the students. So I would give you the input that I have got from my students, and if there is a change in the options, you can put it in the comment section, or you can personally message me in the Unacademy app, and we would change the answer or tell you about that also. So what I have done in this session is that I have taken both the images and two examples, and then I have tried to answer. Still, if there is any discrepancy, that would be always there in the medical sector. So if you have any discrepancy, you can ask me again. Okay. So I think everyone has joined now. So should we start the session? Okay, so give me 1 minute to upload the session. So I would just like to have your opinion that how was the paper? If I ask you about whether its difficulty level was normal, easy, medium, or very difficult. I am specifically asking about ophthalmology. How you felt this paper was? So my question is that how you felt this paper was? Was it easy, moderate, or tough? Okay, so Dr. Shashank says moderate. So let's say if there are 9 questions in ophthalmology, so if you are able to do at least 5 questions correct, this means that you are doing a bit good. Okay, so yes, Amit, it was a lot. I think in ophthalmology section, it was a lot confusing also because not clearly the guidelines are mentioned, and few questions regarding IOL power in post LASIK patients. This was something which we usually do not expect from the UG students. Okay, so should we start the session now? Now everyone has joined. Okay, so we start the session now. Give me just 1 minute because some issues with my pen tab. Okay, so can you hear me, everyone? Okay, so let's start the session today. And the first question that was asked was a previous year question. So this was I think the easiest question of the lot. A 40-year-old male patient is under treatment for epilepsy and he developed progressive concentric visual constriction. Okay, so he developed progressive constructive visual constriction. What, according to you, should be the answer here? So every question I would be giving you 30 seconds to answer. Okay, so as this is a one-liner question, I go straight to the answer, that is vigabatrin. So this was a question I think I have posted in my groups, in my sessions around 10 times in last 6 months, and it was a very easy question. Okay, so vigabatrin is a drug which can cause a concentric visual field constriction. Okay, so some more important things that you have to remember regarding the ocular side effect of systemic drugs. Okay, so the ocular side effect of systemic drugs, the topical steroids. Remember, the topical steroids causes glaucoma, and the systemic steroids causes the cataract. Can you tell me which type of cataract is caused by systemic steroid? So very good. It is the posterior subcapsular cataract. Very good. Okay. So vigabatrin, I told you, causes constricted visual fields. The amiodaron, okay, the amiodaron can cause whole keratopathy. So what is whole keratopathy? You have the drug deposits in the subepithelial layer. Okay. Then it can cause anterior lenticular opacities. Sometimes it can cause optic neuritis and pigmentary retinopathy as well. Phenytoin can cause nystagmus. Can you tell me any other drug which can also cause nystagmus? So remember, the other drugs that I told you which can cause nystagmus is lithium and SSRI. Very good, Dr. Akash. And phenothiazines, they also cause vortex keratopathy, that is called cornea verticillata, and they can also cause a salt and pepper retinopathy. Can you tell me in which disease of the eye you get salt and pepper retinopathy? So I am telling phenothiazine can cause. So very good, Dr. Deepak, it is the rubella. Okay. So rubella can cause a salt and pepper retinopathy. Sometimes even syphilis can cause salt and pepper retinopathy. Okay. Okay. So sometimes they ask about the ocular side effect of steroids. The two I have told you, the cataract and the glaucoma. Cataract is more with the oral and the systemic ones, and glaucoma is more in the topical ones. Can you tell me the glaucoma that is because of the steroid? Is it an open angle or an angle closure? So it is a very good, Dr. Mona. It is the open angle glaucoma. Can you tell me any drug which can cause angle closure glaucoma? So the secondary angle closure glaucoma is caused by a drug, not Pratik, atropine. It is the topiramate. Okay, topiramate per se can cause bilateral angle closure glaucoma. Is it clear, Dr. Pratik? So any anticholinergic can cause a dilation of the pupil, but topiramate causes exudation, and it basically pushes the iris lens diaphragm forward. Okay, the iris lens diaphragm is, you have exudation around your choroidal vessels, and this pushes the iris lens diaphragm forward, and this causes the angle closure. Is it clear, Dr. Pratik? Okay, then we have CSR. So what is CSR? It is the central serous retinopathy, and sometimes even papilledema. So what you call it? You call it IIH, idiopathic intracranial hypertension. So this can also be a side effect of steroids. Is it clear, Dr. Pratik, Dr. Harsh? Okay, so let's move to the next thing. Sometimes they ask, so what are we doing is that the potential questions they can ask in your JIPMER exam and the PGI exam also. So the drugs that can cause color vision defects. So phosphodiesterase inhibitors like sildenafil, digoxin. So can you tell me which type of vision is caused by digoxin? This was also a previous year question. So Uday, it is the yellow vision. Okay, the blue vision is sildenafil and the yellow vision is by digoxin. Very good, Dr. Pratik. And sometimes even interferon alpha, ethambutol. So tell me, what is the type of color blindness that you see with the ethambutol? So very good, Dr. Muna. It is the red-green color blindness. Okay. Then we have other drugs which can cause color vision defects, that are metronidazole and chloroquine. Here also remember, if you do not remember the whole list, what is the most important? Most important is sildenafil, digoxin, ethambutol. And remember, any drug which can cause an optic atrophy, that can also cause color vision deficiency and contrast sensitivity problems. Is it clear, Dr. Mona? Everyone give me a thumbs up. Okay, let's move to the next thing. Then quinine. Quinine can cause toxic amblyopia, sometimes sudden vision loss, and the myasthenia-like syndrome. So the patient may have a ptosis. So what is the most common ocular manifestation of myasthenia? It is the ptosis. And can you tell me what is the most common ocular manifestation of multiple sclerosis? So it is optic neuritis. Very good, Dr. Uday. Okay. Then indomethacin. Indomethacin can also cause hole-like deposits. That is called cornea verticillata. Sometimes it can cause Steven-Johnson type syndrome. So what is Steven-Johnson type syndrome, Dr. Prateek? That it causes desquamation of the mucous membranes of the eye. And sometimes papilledema also secondary to the orbital pseudotumor. Then we have cystoid macular edema. Remember, for cystoid macular edema, this mnemonic, that is NEAT PG. So what are the drugs that can cause cystoid macular edema? You can remember with the mnemonic, that is NEAT PG. So N goes with the nicotinic acid. EE goes with the epinephrine. Very good, Dr. Mona. What is T here? T goes with the tamoxifen. Okay, not tamsulosin, it is a tamoxifen. And PG goes with the PG analogs. Okay, so would you remember this mnemonic? Okay, so the drugs that can cause the cystoid macular edema is your NEAT PG. Okay, then we have drugs that can cause vortex keratopathy. For this, remember a mnemonic FA picture. So we have FA na, through which we can tell about the various retinal disease. So what is FA picture? F goes with the Fabry's disease. Have you heard about this name? Fabry's disease? Okay, A goes with, can anyone tell? Amiodarone. P goes with phenothiazine. I goes with indomethacin. And C goes with chloroquine. Okay, so these are the drugs that can cause vortex keratopathy. Then ocular side effect of sildenafil. The first and the most important is it can cause optic neuropathy. That is anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. Okay, the second is color vision deficiency, and third is finally any type of optic neuritis. What it finally does is it can basically cause atrophy of the various retinal nerve fibers. So finally, optic neuropathy goes into optic atrophy. That's why we are so much scared about the optic neuritis. Is it clear, Dr. Prateek, Dr. Ashin? Okay, so let's move to the next question. Okay, let's move to the next question now. So this was a picture that was given and two students have asked me different. So I have put both the options here. So let's say if this is my first question, this is the procedure that is going on. So can you tell me what is the answer now? Now I am saying, Shreya, there is a confusion. So I am telling both the procedures. Okay. So first is if this one was the picture. Okay, so if one was the picture, it is very simple. It is a probing of nasolacrimal duct obstruction. So can you see here, everyone? There is a puncta here. Everyone give me a thumbs up. So can you see there is a puncta here, and what they are doing is with the help of probe, they are going inside the puncta. Okay, so upper puncta, you are doing a letting a probe go inside there. This is basically the probing of the syringing and probing mechanism. So what we do is, first, no issues, I would do the second image also, but first they can ask not similar image, They can ask any other image also, na? So what is there is, let's say what happens when we put a syringing and probing. With the help of probe, we go in upper canaliculi and we go in the lower canaliculi and we go up to the lacrimal sac and go till here. So can anyone tell me, Dr. Shreya, if the probe hits this point, so what is this called? Okay, this is another question. So if the probe hits this point, what is this point called? So your options are hard spot or soft spot. Anyone can tell me? So very good, Dr. Prateek, Dr. Dipanshu, this is called hard stop. Okay, so hard stop is something which you have to aim at when you are doing a probing, because if you are getting a soft stop, okay, so this means that there may be a membrane inside your common canaliculus or any canaliculi that is causing some obstruction. So that's why to first clean the passage and second to see whether your probe is going up to the lacrimal sac medial side, we do a probing there. This is called probing and then we do syringing. You understand everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now the controversy is that this was not the question. So whatever I have got from students is that there was something like this. So everyone give me a thumbs up. Was it something like this? So if this is the situation, okay, so this is sometimes this type of block which is called anterior ethmoidal nerve block. Okay, if this is the type of block, then the answer should be anterior ethmoidal nerve block. But still, I would ask Dr. Hitesh to tell you exact situation, because this type of blocks we use sometimes to basically, if the patient is having some issues, let's say trigeminal neuralgia, or we have to do a rhinoplasty, so in that cases we use a block where we put the needle. Okay, so here there is no needle point in situation one. Everyone give me a thumbs up. You understand? So in one there is a probe, in number two there is a needle that is going inside. It is totally different. Okay, so in the nerve block you have to put the needle and the drug inside the tissue here. In probing you have to just put probe inside puncta. You won't be having a confusion there. So the final thing which was there can be decided only by you, but I would tell you how to differentiate between these two. In nerve block you are putting the needle there, okay, and in the probing you are putting the probe inside the puncta. Is it clear, everyone? Mona, is it clear? Dr. Indonian, Dr. Naveen? So this is how you can differentiate whether this was a question on anterior ethmoidal nerve block or it was the question about the diagnostic probing. Okay, so not more confusions. Let's move to the next question. Okay, this was a question. I don't think that whether they have asked from the pathology point of view or the point of view by the ophthalmology microscope, but the answer remains the same. So higher the numerical aperture of objective lens, there is better resolution, better magnification, higher degree of view, or higher working space. Try to answer. Try to answer in the poll section. Is the poll available? Okay. So try, Dr. Pooja, Dr. Dipanshu, I request you try to answer in the poll section. So welcome, Dr. Wahi. So the answer here, according to me, is A, that is better resolution. So what is better resolution? Sometimes, let's say I enlarge a image. Okay, I enlarge a image, the image gets broken down. The quality of image is not very clear. So I would give you an example. You are seeing this hand. Okay. Now I am putting this hand. Okay. Yes, Pratik, it's AIMS June paper. So now I am putting this hand very close to you. Can you see the various lines in my hand? So what I want to tell you is that if you can see even finer lines in my hand, okay, so if you can see even finer lines in my hand, this means better resolution. You get my point, Dr. Pratik, Dr. Mona, everyone? So if you are able to see even finer lines, so here you cannot see finer lines. Now if I do this, you can see the finer lines. So what is important is when we do a surgery now, so in surgery, if we increase the magnification, sometimes the resolution is not so good. So we have to change the aperture of the objective lens. There is one eyepiece which is close to my eyes, and there is an objective lens. So we have to change the aperture of the lens so we can see each and every detail in the eye. Okay, this is what is called resolution. You get my point, Dr. Pratik? Okay, so the answer here would be better resolution. Okay, so this is the, can you all see the reference here? Everyone, it is a bit small, but can you see, Dipanshu? So I am just reading out this. The bigger a cone of light that can be brought into the lens, the higher its numerical aperture is. Can you here see it? So therefore, the higher the numerical aperture of the lens, the better is the resolution of a specimen which can be obtained with that lens. Everyone can see this? Dipanshu, Pratik, Amazonian, Akash. So here I go with my answer as better resolution, but still, if this is a new question and we would talk about the optics faculty also, and if there is any change in the question, I would tell you in the following sessions. Is it clear, Dr. Gunjan? Okay, so still any doubts, any counter things, you are more than welcome. Okay, so let's do not waste our time here and we move to the next question. So the next question was, I always in my lectures, I told you RBSK, every time I was asking about, telling you about the ROP changes in the RBSK, and see in this paper you have got RBSK. Okay, so okay, Priya, I change it here as ROP. Okay, no issues. So the question was, which of the following are under? So friends, any doubts till now? So this is a session for the students who have taken the AIMS exam and who are going to give the PGI and the JIPMER exam. Okay. So this was the next question. So there was a one student told me that this was the thing that was ROP here. Okay. So the question is, all of the following are under Rashtriya Bal Suraksha Karyakram. We call it RBSK except. So your options are congenital glaucoma, congenital cataract, vitamin A deficiency, and ROP. So very good. Everyone try to answer. So remember, I told you ROP is definitely under RBSK. Okay, ROP cannot be the answer here. You have seen that the government of India is putting a lot of effort for the vitamin A deficiency also. So vitamin A deficiency cannot be there. In the measles immunization program, we are using vitamin A supplementation, and so many things we are seeing the vitamin A supplementation. The third thing is congenital cataract. So now our option, now let's say you have not studied about RBSK, still you want to basically answer this question. So let's say you have two options left, A and B here. So one is congenital glaucoma and other is a congenital cataract. Now you have to basically see which one of the following. So Dr. Abhishek, Dr. Avasthi, the glaucoma per se, is a very dangerous disease. But the problem is that even after surgery of congenital glaucoma and even after the various treatment modalities, the the perspective and the prognosis is not so good. Okay, but as compared to congenital cataract, the cataract surgeries are having wonderful results. So after doing a cataract surgery, after putting the intraocular lens, the congenital cataract, these patients get a very good vision. Okay, so if I have to choose between these two, okay, I would definitely choose congenital cataract as my preference as compared to glaucoma. This does not mean that congenital glaucoma is not a problem or should not be treated. Congenital glaucoma has to be treated as soon as possible because it is the last point where you can save the vision. Otherwise, if you do late, the vision is totally wrong. But for the programs, we have other things that also we have to take care of regarding the availability of the surgeons, regarding the protocols, regarding the procedures that can be done, and what is the prognosis. So in this case, definitely A is the answer, but be sure that in RBSK guidelines, we are in touch with the Professor A.K. Singh, who has made these guidelines. He is my senior in AIMS also, and definitely congenital glaucoma would be there in few years time. Okay, so right now the answer here is A. Okay, now also remember one more change that is there in the protocols of ROP management. So can you tell me now what is the age limit before that we need to screen each and every child for ROP? So Vivek, you get my point? So what is the age limit before that any child if is born should be screened for ROP? So Milan, earlier it was 32 weeks. Now there is a change that is 34 weeks. Okay, any child less than 34 weeks has to be screened for ROP. Earlier it was 1500 grams. Can anyone tell me what is the latest criteria? So earlier it was 1500 grams and now it is less than 2 kg. Okay, any child less than 2 kg, very good, Dr. Shavik. Any child less than 34 weeks or any child who is having high risk characteristics. Okay, high risk characteristic means, let's say, who has got a sepsis, who is under a exchange transfusion, who has got oxygen therapy. So any child even between 34 to 36 weeks, if he is suffering from any high risk characteristic, this also has to be sent to the ophthalmologist for the ROP screening. Is it clear, everyone? Okay, so Priya, you have a question. I'm not able to see the question right now, but in I think next comments I would be able to see the question. So the second thing is that, let's say the ophthalmologist is having a referral for ROP by a pediatrician. You get my point, Dr. Priya? Now I am an ophthalmologist. I have got a referral from Dr. Khatri that, Dr. Vineet, this is a child. He is in my nursery. Come and screen the patient for ROP. So I message Dr. Khatri, sir, I am busy. So he says, within how much time you have to screen the patient. Now this is the second criteria that is changed in RBSK. So the second criteria that is changed, Dr. Priya, is that every ROP child has to be screened within 4 weeks of referral. Okay, so every child has to be screened within 4 weeks of referral. Okay, so whether he is 28 weeks, whether he is 30 weeks, 32 weeks, I cannot delay the screening of the child more than 4 weeks. You get my point, Dr. Vasvi, Dr. Priya? So, Dr. Priya, your question is, there is 28 weeks and 34 weeks. You can send me the question again. I'm not able to understand the question. Now, second thing is, let's say the child is a very small child. Let's say 26 week or 27 week. where Dr. Priya, the chances are that the ROP can severely damage the eye within few days or within few weeks. So the second criteria the RBSK has changed is every child has which is very low birth weight, let's say 1200 or 1300 gram, or within 26 week to 27 week, the ophthalmologist have to screen it as soon as possible. Why it is important? Because there is a thing that if the patient is having a ROP in the child and he's a very young child, he may progress very fast. So you have to screen the child as soon as possible. Everyone give me a thumbs up if you understand this point. So this is the second change that is there in RBSK. So Dr. Priya, your question is like if a child is born on 28 weeks, then we should screen. So if the child is born in 28 weeks, I have to screen it before 32 weeks. Okay, I have to screen it before 32 weeks. Okay, so Deepak, my second point is that I told you that if the child is 26 weeks or around 1200 to 1300 gram, so in this child you do not have to wait even 4 weeks. You have to screen the child as soon as possible. So it is an emergency, it is an heart attack, you have to leave everything and go and screen the child here. You get my point, Dr. Deepak? Okay, everyone having any doubt in the session till now, friends? Okay, so we are going very fine. Let's move to the next slide. So the congenital glaucoma is not included. What are the criteria that are included in RBSK? These are the congenital cataract, retinopathy of prematurity, visual impairment, and vitamin A deficiency. Okay, so in vitamin A deficiency, they are taking Bitot spots as the measure. So these are the conditions that are included in RBSK. Please, everyone, note it. Okay, so this is the whole list of the diseases that are there in the RBSK. So what I recommend is please download the PDF, okay, and see the list of all diseases. Okay, so here I have mentioned all systemic diseases also that are under RBSK. You may get a question in the NEET or JIPMER exam regarding any other disease also. Is it clear, everyone? Okay, so let's move to the next question. The next question was the patient enters a dark room and there is no change in the pupillary reaction and the pupil remains smaller. What can be the condition patient is suffering from? Holme-Eddy's pupil, Horner's pupil, Argan-Robertson pupil, or blind eye? So, Dr. Prashant, Dr. Deepak, Dr. Enzonian, any doubts till now? So one thing that I want to request you is there was one question on the oblique muscle palsy, whether it was a superior oblique or inferior oblique, we do not know. So if anyone of you having the exact question, please send it to me. Okay. So what we have got a question and we would try to answer it accordingly. Okay. So here the question is, patient enters the dark room and there is no change in the pupillary reaction and the pupil remains smaller. What can be the condition the patient is suffering from? Okay, so Vanshika, the first thing is Holme-Eddy's pupil. So for Holme-Eddy's pupil, remember it is a lazy pupil. So it dilates slowly, it constricts slowly. Is it clear, Dr. Mona? So usually when the patient presents to you, you see the eye is a bit dilated. Okay, so there is a bit, you can say there is a mydriasis, and when you put light to that pupil, it also constricts slowly. Okay, so this is how a Holme-Eddy's pupil is there, but it is not like that there won't be any change in the pupillary reaction when the patient moves to the dark area So Eddie's pupil is not the answer here. Is it clear, Dr. Priya, Dr. Mona? Everyone, you understand? The A is not the answer here. Okay. So now the second thing is B. So let's see the option C and option D. Can you hear me, everyone? Am I audible? Because there's some technical issues in the lights. So I am just doing, there is no green screen right now here. But my net connection is also a bit okay, hazy. So can you hear me, everyone? Okay. So in this question, Argyll Robertson pupil. So Argyll Robertson pupil, you remember the accommodation reflex is present and the pupillary reflex is absent. Okay. So here the pupillary reflex is absent. So this also cannot be the answer here. Is it clear, Dr. Shovik, Dr. Priya? Okay, so the patient is having in this question and blind eye also comes where the patient has a bit dilated pupil. Is it clear, Dr. Priya, Dr. Shovik? So option C and option D cannot be the answer here. Now let's see what is option B. So in Horner syndrome, can you tell me in Horner syndrome, what is the condition of the pupil? Can anyone tell me? So very good, Dr. MKR. The condition of a patient is having meiosis. Everyone understand that? And in Horner syndrome, what is the basic pathology, Dr. MKR, Dr. Shi? Everyone, can anyone tell me? So the basic pathology is that you are having some issues with the sympathetic supply. Is it clear, Dr. Vasavi, Dr. Pooja? So, and tell me why the pupil dilates. Let's say I go, this is the light that is there now. I switch off my light and my pupil dilates. So can you tell me why the pupil dilates? So very good, Dr. Vasavi. It is the sympathetic supply which causes the dilator pupillae to act, and that basically causes dilation of pupil. Okay. So in Horner syndrome, your dilation is basically affected. So in these cases, the already myosed pupil, when the patient goes into the dilated in the dark area, the pupil does not dilate further. You all get my point, Dr. Pooja, Deepak, everyone give me a thumbs up. Now this is the reference that I am quoting from the PubMed. With sympathetic denervation, as in Horner syndrome, the pupil will not dilate as quickly and as extensively as a normal pupil in the darkness. Okay, so this is the reference that I am quoting. So that's why I think the answer here is Horner syndrome. Is it clear, everyone? So I think there was no difficulty in the going. Is the procedure and everything well in your centers? The social distancing and hope there is no crowding there. Is the management everything was fine there? Okay, so please take good care of yourself. Okay, the exams would come, and but please do not go outside. And those students who are in Delhi, Bombay, the things are going worse in few days from now. So I would request you that please take care of your health. This is most important right now. So in our setup, we are in a clinical setup. We are having a corporate hospitals. We are facing a lot of fund crunches right now, lot of difficulties. If the patient is there, that is difficulty. If patient is not there, that is a difficulty. Only thing that is in 2020 is please survive. The government has put another rule right now that everyone who is taking the seat has to join the seat as soon as possible, because you can not imagine there is so much dearth of the doctors. But for you students, it is a golden opportunity, because definitely in next budget you would say that there would be 100% increase in the health infrastructure. So more jobs there, more opportunities would be there, and hope the better sense prevail in the normal population also. Okay, so do not wasting time more. I go to the next question. This was a simple question on the basis of your general sense. The patient prescribed eye ointment and eye drop. In which condition we prescribe eye ointment and eye drop? Both. Can anyone tell me? So in which eye condition you prescribe eye ointment also and eye drops also? So the answer is most commonly it is dry eyes. Okay, in dry eyes we tell the patient to put eye drops like carboxymethyl cellulose, HPMC regularly 3 to 4 times a day, and before sleeping, because during sleep you cannot put the eye drops now. So we tell the patient that put a gel, let's say corny gel or HPMC gel, in the night before sleeping. So what the examiner wants to ask you, how you have to put this drops and the gel to the patient. Do everyone get my point? So they are saying that if the patient is prescribed both, which one of them has to be put earlier as compared to other? Now try to answer. So some students are saying that option D was not anyone can be put before that. So it was that eye drop followed by the eye ointment instantaneously. So doesn't make a difference. That is not the answer. So everyone has put it right. The answer here is apply eye drops first, and then you have, after 15 minutes you have to put the eye ointment. Now why this has to be done? Okay, the first thing is that when you put the eye drop to the eye, it is absorbed from the surface of eyeball. Everyone get my point? Give me a thumbs up. So you have to first basically absorb the eye drop from the surface of the eyeball. When it is absorbed, after 15 minutes you can put the gel or eye ointment there. Okay, if you do it instantaneously, let's say putting eye drop and then gel, so the time taken for the eye drop to absorb fully, which is absolutely not less than 5 minutes, it cannot be there. Okay, so you have to wait from at least 10 to 15 minutes so that the eye first absorbs the eye drop. The gel should not be put first. The reason is, if you put the gel, so let's say this is my eye, the main function of the gel is, Dr. Sarath, that whenever you have gel here, gel basically, where is my highlighter? Okay, so gel basically covers the eyeball like this. You get my point, everyone? Dr. Jaswit, Dr. Insonian, Dr. Priya, give me a thumbs up, everyone. So now, even if you put the eye drop, the eye drop cannot penetrate inside because there is gel covering over the eyeball. So never put a gel and then put a eye drop, because then the eye drop cannot even penetrate. So Gunjan, can you hear me? Anyone having? So let's do one thing. Any issues with the net connection? Give me a thumbs up if you are able to see me. Okay, so let's move to the next question. So this was a question I think Priya have sent me. So after the session, I would see the question and put the explanation again in my YouTube channel. So those who are the subscribers, or even those who are not right subscribers and want to subscribe later on, everyone can see. So Priya, I would note down your question also. Okay. So what I have got from my student, the question was, the patient came with the left head tilt. Okay. On straightening head, there is right hypertropia that increased with the right head tilt. The patient presents with the dextroversion. Which of the following muscle is paralyzed? Now try to answer. So Dr. Emzonian says that it is not the hypertropia, it was the hypotropia. Now, Dr. Emzonian, if you are having an Academy app, so please go there, put a message and message me in my app also, okay? So that I can get the exact question from you also. So let's say forget about the question. This was the question. Now for 1 minute, just forget about the question. This was the question there. So patient is having left head tilt or straightening head. There is a right hypertropia that increases with right head tilt. The patient presents with the dextroversion. Which of the following muscles is paralyzed? The answer here is A, that is right superior oblique. Now, okay, Pooja, we would do with the hypotropia also. Okay, I would put a question like this also. So first remember a superior oblique palsy. What is a superior oblique palsy? In superior oblique palsy, what is the action of superior oblique? Can anyone tell? The superior oblique is basically an intortor. Okay, so superior oblique is basically an intortor. Secondary action, can anyone tell me? So the secondary action is depression. Very good. And what is tertiary action? So the tertiary action is abduction. Okay, so you can remember it with the diagram like this. Okay, this is superior oblique, this is intorsion, this is my intorsion. Okay, basically rotating the eye towards the nose. This is my depression and this is my abduction. Okay, everyone, doctor, any doubt till now? Give me a thumbs up if you are able to understand this thing right till now. Now friends, let's say there is a superior oblique palsy. So how the patient would present like? Can anyone tell me? So superior oblique palsy, the patient would basically come with hypertropia. Okay, because superior oblique basically depresses. Now superior oblique is not working, so the inferior oblique is working and the inferior rectus is working. They would move the eye up. So if you are saying that the thing is hypertropia, then there can be superior oblique. If there is hypotropia, then we have to see which type of hypotropia is it. But remember, if the hypotropia is there, the answer can be inferior oblique also. Okay, so first thing is superior oblique palsy comes with hypertropia. Everyone get this point? Okay, now I would show you a figure of superior oblique palsy. You would be able to understand how the superior oblique palsy looks like. So from the figure itself, you can understand what is the characteristic of a superior oblique palsy. So can you see this picture, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. No? Can you just refresh your page? So basically in this picture, can you see this picture right now? Everyone, give me a thumbs up. So this is my patient. This is my head tilt. Okay, this is my head tilt and this is my face turn. This is my face turn and this is my head tilt. You get my point? Dr. Wasabi, Dr. Mahin, everyone. So this is my head tilt and this is my face turn. Now this is the right head tilt and this is my left head tilt. You get the point, everyone? Now Deepak, please see, in right head tilt, this is my right eye and this is my right eye. Okay, so can you see the pupil here or the cornea here is elevated? Everyone, can you understand? Cornea here is elevated. So in right head tilt, you have a elevation of cornea. This is called elevation or hypertropia. Is it clear? This is hypertropia. And how much is the amount? So to see how much is the amount of hypertropia, you have to see the point here. Okay, this is the point here, which is the limbus. Okay, and see it from the eyelid margin. Can you everyone see, Deepak, everyone? So this area between the limbus and the eyelid margin, this is the amount of hypertropia. So you say that approximate, I say that the amount of hypertropia here is 2 millimeter. Everyone get this point? Give me a thumbs up. Very important. I would tell you about the superior oblique palsy and the inferior oblique palsy. Now this is second criteria. This is left head tilt. So in left head tilt, you are still seeing that your limbus is slightly elevated here. Okay, not as much as hit here. So let's say there is still a hypertropia, but it is less. So here there is 1 millimeter hypertropia, there is 2 millimeter hypertropia. Is it clear? So what I want to say is that hypertropia is less in left head tilt as compared to right head tilt. Is it clear, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now the funda remains is there are two types of head tilt. There can be right head tilt or there can be left head tilt. In right head tilt, there is more hypertropia as compared to left head tilt, which has less hypertropia. Is it clear, Mona, till now? Till now, just forget about this. Is it clear till now? So which thing the patient would prefer, left head tilt or right head tilt? So patient would always prefer a position where there is less amount of squint. Okay, the patient would always prefer a position where there is less amount of squint. Is it clear, Dr. Agati? Now here remember there are two mnemonics. So Dr. Agasti, I am basically putting the reference from the Kansky here. Okay, if you have any other mnemonic, you can just put it down from to me also. Okay, so Dr. Satvik, here you have two mnemonics for the superior oblique palsy. I am telling you about the superior oblique palsy right now. So one is boot and other is VOOT. So BOOT comes with better on opposite tilt. Okay, and VOOT goes with the worse on opposite gaze. Okay, gaze means face turn. Okay, gaze means face turn. So Dr. Agasti, is it clear till now? Everyone, is it clear till now? So now, Dr. Vasavi, I ask you, if the patient has right superior oblique palsy, so how the patient would present then? So which head tilt the patient would prefer? My question is, which head tilt the patient would prefer? So very good, the patient would prefer left head tilt in this condition. Is it clear? So in our question, the question was that I have put, I do not know what was the exact question. The question was the patient is having hypertropia and the patient improved on the patient presented with the left head tilt. So in that cases, the patient is having if the left head tilt is there, the patient would be having right superior oblique palsy. Is it clear, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Now, then occurs the point 2. Now, what is the face turn? Face turn, you have to remember it with the mnemonic VOOT. Worse on opposite gaze or worse on opposite face turn. This is my face turn. So this is my right eye. This is my right face turn. If I have a right superior oblique palsy, okay, superior oblique is a adductor or abductor? Can you tell me? Superior oblique is an abductor or adductor? So very good, Dr. Vasavi. Superior oblique is simply an abductor. Another thing that is an abductor is another muscle which is an abductor. So here So Dr. Agasti, I am talking boot and boot for the superior oblique only. Okay. So the other muscle which is abductor is, can you tell me? Very good. It is the lateral rectus. Okay. So the obliques and the rectus, they both are the abductors. Okay, Dr. Agasti, Dr. Mona. Now, what is worse on opposite gaze? So worse on opposite gaze means that the patient is putting, when he has right side superior oblique palsy and he moves the left side, he would be worse. So what he would prefer? He would prefer right face turn. So right superior oblique palsy would prefer right face turn because he would be worse on the left face turn. Is it clear, Dr. Agasti, Dr. Mona, everyone? Okay. So a right superior oblique palsy comes with left head tilt, and right superior oblique palsy comes with right face turn. Is it clear? So similar thing is, now we talk about the other muscles. We have talked about superior oblique. Let's say there is a lateral rectus palsy. Okay, so if the question asks, so Mahin, apply it for superior oblique only. Okay, now inferior oblique, I would be giving you the example for the inferior oblique palsy also. Okay, so Mahin, right now apply it for superior oblique only. For lateral rectus IO palsy, you have to go to the Park 3-step test. To diagnose a patient of inferior oblique palsy, everyone, you have to go. If the IO was the culprit there and you are suspecting any IO palsy, you have to do a Park's 3-step test there. Okay. Now I am telling you about the lateral rectus palsy. So can you tell me which nerves is involved when there is a lateral rectus palsy? So it is the sixth nerve that is involved. So let's say this is my right eye and this is my left eye. Okay, my right eye can, when I try to move, I have a object here. Okay, so let's say Dr. Anurag is here and this is Dr. Vineet, and Dr. Vineet wants to see Dr. Anurag. My right eye is moving here. Okay, but my left eye is not able to move laterally. So Dr. Vineet is having a lateral rectus palsy here. You get my point, Dr. Anurag? So my lateral rectus, the right eye can adduct, but my left eye cannot abduct. Okay. Now if the Anurag is here and my this eye is paralyzed and I cannot move here, so what I would do, I would put whole my face towards him. To see Dr. Anurag, I would put whole of my face towards this. So here you have to remember one more important point that was asked in the AIIMS exam. If the patient comes with the face turn on the same side, okay, so in that case there can be either a lateral rectus palsy or there can be a superior oblique palsy or there can be inferior oblique also. Why? Okay, so one question that someone asked about the Voog and the boot. So in inferior oblique also you can have a Voog there. Okay, why? Because all of them are abductors. You get my point, Dr. Agasti, Anurag, everyone give me a thumbs up if you understand. Very, very important. You have a question on inferior oblique. You may get a question of superior oblique. You may get a question on lateral rectus. So anyone having any doubt, please put explain it again, sir. I would explain it again. But I want every one of you should. So Dr. V, what was the doubt? So Dr. VG, which point you are not able to understand? Please put it in the comment section which point you are not able to understand. So I am talking about lateral rectus. Okay, lateral rectus is abductor. You understand? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, so this is lateral rectus is also an abductor. Superior oblique is also an abductor. Inferior oblique is also an abductor. You all get my point? So Dr. Jaswit, do not take IO with this mnemonic. Okay, for IO, I am repeating again, you have to go with the Park 3-step test to diagnose that condition. Okay, so Dr. VG, all of these are having abductors. So every one of them, your face turn would be towards the side of paralysis. So right sided lateral rectus palsy would have right face turn. Right sided superior oblique palsy would also have a right face turn. Is it clear, Dr. Jaswit, everyone? Okay. So now this is the condition. Okay. Now we say about the right inferior oblique palsy. So in inferior oblique palsy, let's say there is a right inferior oblique palsy. Okay. So in right inferior oblique palsy, please remember there would be, now what is the action of inferior oblique? Can you tell me? The action of inferior oblique is, so very good, Dr. Wasabi. The first action of inferior oblique is extortion. The second action is elevation. And what is your tertiary action? So can anyone tell me what is the tertiary action of inferior oblique? So very good, Dr. Mahin. It is the abduction. So now whenever you have a patient with inferior oblique palsy, you have to detect. So first thing is how the patient would present. The patient would present, let's say he is having a right hypertropia. Okay, so the patient would have a right hypertropia which increases on right gaze. Okay, which increases on right gaze and with the right head tilt. Okay, this is the presentation when the patient is having a left inferior oblique palsy. Is it clear, Dr. Wasabi? Now, Shreya, I am not talking about hypotropia. I am talking about hypertropia. Okay, so this is a presentation of left inferior oblique palsy. Okay, so we have for inferior oblique palsies or any type, whether it is hypertropia or whether it is a hypotropia, you have to do a test. Okay, so you have to give a test that is called Park 3-step test. Okay, you have to do a Park 3-step test to know whether your inferior rectus, your superior rectus, inferior oblique or superior oblique, okay, which one of them is basically involved. You need to do a Park 3-step test. Is it clear till now? I would explain what is Park 3-step test also. Dr. Shreya, is it clear? Dr. Amzonian? Okay, so here we have a Park 3-step test that we have to remember. So let's say the patient is having a right hypertropia. So friends, what is the meaning of hypertropia? Hypertropia means eye is elevated. Okay, so whenever there is a right hypertropia, let's say this is my right hypertropia. So can you tell me which muscles are involved if there is a right hypertropia? Now this is my nose and this is my left eye. So if the right eye hypertropia is there, okay, and if we are talking about any palsy, so there can be, what are the elevators of the eye and what are the depressors of the eye? So our depressors may be having palsy when there is a right hypertropia. So what are our depressors? Can you tell me? So very good, Dr. Mona. It is either our right inferior rectus or our right superior oblique. Everyone give me a thumbs up if you understand till now. Is it clear till now? Now the second situation is that if there is a hypertropia of the right eye, there can be a because some students were asking that the question was hypotropia. Okay, so some students, so I take, if the right is hypertropia, there can be a left with hypotropia. Okay, there can be, because some students were saying the hypotropia was there. So similar, you can have a left hypotropia. Okay, so here there would be the same thing that would be followed. Okay, so Dr. Amzonian, Dr. Sanjana, if there is left hypotropia, what are the muscles which can be paralyzed? Can you tell me? So very good, Dr. Vanshika. It can be your left eye, superior rectus, and left eye inferior oblique. Is it clear, everyone? Till now, give me a thumbs up if you are able to understand till now. I want everyone to give me a thumbs up. So either it is a hypertropia or a hypotropia. First thing that you have to see is which eye is elevated. Okay, so if there is a left hypotropia, the right eye would be elevated. If there is a left hypertropia, your right eye would be now hypotropic. Okay, this is the main thing that you have to remember, and this is the first step of Park 3-step test. Is it clear, everyone? Now second step is you have to see where there is a face turn. Now this is my eye. Okay, this is my right eye and this is my left eye. If let's say I have a face turn here, Dr. Anurag is here and I have to see there. So my right eye has to abduct and my left eye has to adduct. You get my point, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Everyone, give me a thumbs up if you understand. So let's say I say my right eye has to see, I have to see Anurag who is towards my dextro side. So my right eye has to abduct and my left eye has to adduct. Now, whenever you see the extraocular muscles, I am talking about the 4 muscles that we are concerned. Let's say this is my action of right superior rectus. Okay, this is my right inferior rectus. This is my right inferior oblique, and this is my right superior oblique. These are my actions. Superior rectus takes the eye up and out, inferior rectus the down and out, superior oblique towards the nose and up, and inferior oblique towards the up and towards the nose, and inferior oblique down and towards the nose. Is it clear, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, for adduction, now for adduction, Dr. Sanjana, if they are asking about the adduction, the same principle comes here. It is left inferior oblique, left superior oblique, your left superior rectus and right superior rectus. Is it clear, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, so this is the position. This is your nose. This is the position of the eyeball in the face turn. This is called your second or the second test for the Park 3-step test. So Park 3-step, first we have to see which is the elevating muscle. Second thing, we have to see on face turn which of the muscles are acting. Is it clear, Dr. Anurag, Dr. Deepak, everyone? So if my eye, I come back to this point, if my eye is to see Dr. Anurag who is here, so my right superior rectus and right inferior rectus They would be involved because they are abducting the eye. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, so if the abduction is asked, then my right superior rectus and right inferior rectus would be working, and for my left eye they are moving medially. So medially my inferior oblique and superior oblique would be working. Is it clear, Dr. Anurag, Dr. Deepak? So I am saying forget about everything else. If my superior rectus and inferior oblique they are working, it would be in this pattern. So this is a pattern when we are talking about the right face turn, okay, or we can tell about right gaze. Is it clear, everyone? Now the third thing is we have to talk about third thing, that is head tilt. Now for head tilt, this is my left head tilt, this is my right head tilt. You get my point, everyone? What is the head tilt? Okay, so I make the diagram also again here. So this is my right superior rectus, my right inferior rectus, right inferior oblique, and right superior oblique. Is it clear, Dr. Vasavi, till now? This step? Okay, and for the left eye, we have a left superior rectus, left inferior oblique, left inferior oblique, left superior rectus. Okay, this is my left inferior rectus, and there is my left superior oblique. So do you have 5-10 minutes more? I want to complete the session, because this is the superior oblique, inferior oblique. This is always a confusion in the student's mind. Okay, so this is the position I basically made earlier also. So remember, Dr. Sanjana, if I move my eye towards like this, let's say this is my left head turn, so my eye should also move like this. Okay, but eye goes with a compensatory movement. So if my face moves, head tilt is like this, my eye basically goes like this. This is the movement of head, and this is compensatory movement of my eyes. Everyone give me a thumbs up if you understand that. If not, I would repeat it again. Please put it in the comment section. Dr. Vasavi, if you are able to understand, please put it in the comment section. So the movement of eyes would always be the contrasting to the movement of the head. So if the head is moving like an extorsion, I would move towards intorsion. So here, if you, Dr. Vasvi, if you understand, if this is my right head tilt, so what was given in the question? The question was right head tilt. So let's say the patient is having a right head tilt. So which muscles, if there is a eye is moving exotropia, the head is moving exo, where would the eye move? I would move inside na. So if the right eye is moving or right head tilt is there, the movement of eye would be intorsion. Everyone understand this? Give me a thumbs up. Everyone give me a thumbs up if you understand. So हिंदी में अगर जिस तरफ आपका सिर घूमेगा, आंख उसके ऑपोजिट घूमेगी. So wherever your head moves in the direction, your eye moves compensatory to that. Okay, so we would have the right eye intorsion there whenever there is a movement of the right head tilt. Is it clear? Now Sanjana, can you tell me what are the intorters of the eye? So can you tell me what are the intorters of the eye? So very good. The intorters of the eye are, so very good. The superiors are the intorters. Okay. So my superiors are the intorters. So my right superior rectus and right superior oblique, they are the intorters here. You get my point, Dr. Vasavi, Dr. Geetika, everyone? So now this eye is moving here. Okay. So my right eye is moving inside. Now we see about the left eye. So similarly, when the right eye is moving here and the eyeballs are moving inside, my other side, the eyeball would be moving outside. You get my point? So in left eye, there would be extorsion. So your inferior oblique and inferior rectus would be involved. Okay. So this is how our head tilt looks like. You get my point, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. So when right eye, in right head tilt, right superior rectus and right superior oblique cause intorsion, and for the left eye, left inferior oblique and left inferior rectus cause the extortion. Okay, this is called third step of the Park 3-step test. Is it clear, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Now, what I do is I combine all of them in one place. So my first was right hypertropia. Na? Everyone, give me a thumbs up. So first was my right hypertropia. So I was having confusion about right superior rectus, right inferior rectus, okay, and we have the right superior oblique and our right inferior oblique here. For the other eye, I make a diagram which is left inferior oblique, left superior rectus, then we have left superior oblique and left inferior rectus. Is it clear till now? This was the final 4 muscles which we have to take care of that. So initially what we thought was that whether there is an inferior rectus palsy or inferior rectus or a superior oblique palsy. So I make a diagram 1 here. This was the first condition. Now everyone give me a thumbs up. So this was my first condition, whether there is an inferior rectus or superior oblique palsy. This was my first condition now. Okay, so I make a diagram where I put whether these two are involved. In my condition 2, this was my condition 2. So I told that whenever there is a right head tilt, my either superior rectus or right inferior rectus would be involved. So here in my condition 2, where I have told either my superior rectus or my inferior rectus is involved. These are the muscles which are for the right head tilt. So I make second diagram like this. Is it clear till now? This is my first step. This is my second step. Okay. And what was my third step? My third step was that superior rectus and superior oblique. Okay. So my superior rectus and superior oblique, the third is they can also be the culprit. So I just change the color here. So this can be my third option. Okay. So you make a triangle like this. Everyone give me a thumbs up. You are having a triangle like this. Now in this triangle, there is no common muscle. Okay. There is no common muscle which is there in all the 3 sides. But let's see the left eye. What happens in my left eye? So first is either superior rectus and inferior oblique would be involved, Give me a thumbs up if you understand. So we talked about either superior rectus or inferior oblique can be the cause of left hypertropia. So in this case, so first thing is what we say, that our superior rectus and inferior oblique can be the culprit. So where is our superior rectus and inferior oblique? So this is my superior rectus and inferior oblique. So this comes with the test 1. Everyone give me a thumbs up. Everyone understand? Now what was step 2? So step 2 was either inferior oblique or superior oblique is involved. So this inferior oblique and superior oblique. So this was my step 2. Step 2 says any one of these two can be involved. Okay. Now what was step 3? Step 3 was inferior oblique or inferior rectus. They are responsible for the extortion. So we have inferior oblique and inferior rectus. So this is inferior oblique and inferior rectus. Okay, this is step 3. Now everyone, please tell me these 3 lines, which muscle is common? Everyone, give me the answer. So very good, Dr. Vasavi. Anyone else? Can you see, everyone, that this inferior oblique is common here? So the answer here is left inferior oblique palsy. Okay. So you have to see which muscle is common, and this is called the complicated Park 3-step test. So remember, this is not something that I have told you here and you see, oh, that is so easy. You have to go back to my lecture and see it again and again, at least 5 times. Then the second thing is write it down in your page of paper. I also mastered it like this only. Write it in your page of paper and please put it there. Try to revise it once in a week for next 4 weeks. You would never ever have any difficulty in seeing which muscle is paralyzed, or you won't need any mnemonic to crack any muscle. Is it clear, Dr. Deepanshu, Dr. Anurag, Dr. Mahin, everyone? Okay. Oh, so let's move to the next question. Which of the following are features of corneal epithelium except? Now, this was also a controversial question. We do not know what is the exact options. So, lined by stratified squamous epithelium, Bowman's membrane regenerate, apical cells have microvilli, stem cells are limited to limbus. Try to answer. So we come to the answer. The answer here is B, that is wrong, but D is also not absolutely correct. Okay, so the B, option A, let's see everyone, option A, lined by stratified squamous epithelium. It is a non-keratinized epithelium. We all know this is correct. Is it clear, everyone? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, now move to point 2, Bowman's membrane regenerate. Is this right or wrong? Tell me in the comment section. So definitely Bowman's membrane does not regenerate. The regenerating membranes are epithelium and sometimes it is descent. So you would say that, sir, some studies have shown that after a LASIK procedure, Bowman's membrane can regenerate, but this is not a standard lines. In standard books, it is written that it does not regenerate. Even in my notes, I have written it does not regenerate. So option B is definitely wrong. You can safely go with the answer here. Apical cells have microvilli. Yes, apical cells can have microvilli. Now, what was option D? Stem cells are limited to the limbus. So you have basically studied what are the places where the stem cells of the cornea are there. Can you tell me, Vivek, in which spaces they are there? So there, dear limbus, there are some spaces which are called, can anyone tell what is the name? So very good. This is palisades of Vogue. So Dr. Jaspreet, this is some studies, they are not very confirmed studies, okay? So very good. This is the Palisades of Vogt where there are limbus stem cells. Okay. So this is also a partially correct statement, but I think few residents are also here. If this question is asked in your Viva that where are the stem cells in the eye, so you tell that yes, stem cells are there in the limbus, because I am a clinician and doing the fellowship programs also. So I have a duty to tell you that those who are residents here, please remember the stem cells can be there in the corneal stroma also and corneal endothelium also. Okay, but most of the mitotic activity is limited to the limbus stem cells only. Is it clear, everyone? Okay, so Dr. Venkatesh, Dr. Wasabi, I cannot get your question because there is something coming in the end of my comment section. You can personally message me also. Okay, this was the next question. A patient presented with the LASIK for myopia and now undergoing a cataract surgery. So can I take 4 or 5 minutes more, everyone? I just want, this is the last question of the day. So this is a patient underwent LASIK for myopia and now undergoing cataract surgery. Formula used for lens power calculation. Can you tell? Just I have to take permission from the technical team because I want to extend this session with for 4 or 5 minutes. Give me a minute. Okay, so the answer here is C, Higgs formula. So can you tell me what is the general formula that we used to see when we used to measure the IOL power calculation? Anyone? So usually we used to see the Shah Rukh Khan formula, the SRK formula, but now the question is very difficult. Post LASIK, what are the formula that we can use? So what is the problem that happens with LASIK? With LASIK, the corneal curvature is changed. Okay, so when you are having hyperopic, we make it steep, and when you are a myopic, we make it flat. You get my point? Basic funda is we have to, basic Dr. Jaspreet, we have to change the curvature of cornea in the LASIK. That is the main problem. And I do not go more in the details of everything. Anyone wants IOL power calculation total formulas, you can get it for me. I would mail it to you, but I do not think they are very relevant for the PG exam, their details. But I am just telling you what are the formulas that are used in particular condition. So first of all is, if there is a patient who is getting cataract for LASIK, so Dr. Jaspreet, here you have to use either Higgs formula. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you understand. Because your corneal curvature is different. The funda is the best formula. If they ask you best formula, it is ASCRS calculator. Okay, it is American Society for Cataract Refractive Surgery. The ASCRS calculator, this is the best way to measure the IOL formula. The third one is Gaussian. Just remember the names. Gaussian optics formula. Okay, this is also very important in the LASIK part. Okay, so these are the three formulas that we use for LASIK. Now the second thing they can ask you is that, let's say the patient has asked corneal transplant. If the patient has undergone a corneal transplant and now he wants to get a cataract surgery, so then what we have to use as the formula? So remember, so Aimzonian, this was never a question asked. So this was never there in any of the lecture. We just told you what are the formulas that can be used in various types of eye, whether it is a myopic eye or hyperopic eye. So today, now we are doing for in specific conditions, what are the IOL conditions. So if there is a corneal transplant, what you have to do is you have to take the K value of the other eye. Okay, so if you are doing a right keratoplasty, you have to see the keratometry value of the other eye. Is it clear, everyone? This is how you have to calculate the IOL power of a patient with corneal transplant. Okay, if that is also not available, the patient is having blind with both the eyes, you take standard keratometry value, that is 43.5. Okay, this is the second option you can take if the patient is having a corneal transplant. The third thing that I have already told you, if the patient is a hypermetropic. Now this we have told you earlier in the lectures. If the patient is hypermetropic, that means the axial length is less than 22 millimeter. Here you use, please everyone note it down, Holaday formula, or you can use Hoffer Q formula. So Dr. Yusuf, I was telling, if the patient of corneal transplant is there, you have to take K value. K means keratoplasty value of the other eye, or if that is also not available, then you have to go with the 43.5. Is it clear, Yusuf? Okay, I told you, if the axial length is less, you use Holaday formula or Hoffer Q formula. Earlier we used to take SRK in a normal axial length. What we say normal axial length, it is between 22 to 24.5. Then we use your SRK2 formula or SRKT formula. Okay, these are the three formulas we use in a normal patient. Now the SRK formula itself is not used. We use a modification, that is SRK2 or SRKT or the Hoffer formula. If the axial length is more than 24.5, if the axial length is more than 24.5, then we use Holaday 1 or we use SRK T formula. Is it clear, everyone? Please note it down. This is something which you can get in the further papers also. Okay. Then the next thing they can ask, let's say that there is a congenital cataract that is done. Okay, a childhood cataract that is done. If the patient is having age less than 2 years, we have to do an under correction. Okay, let's say you have IOL power that comes 20 diopter. You have to basically do, if the patient is less than 2 years, you have to do a 20% under correction. If the patient is less than 8 years, you have to do 10% under correction. Is it clear, Dr. Yusuf? I am coming to your question also. Everyone give me a thumbs up. So under correction means B's goes to 20 goes to 16, or in this 20 goes to 18. Give me a thumbs up, everyone. Okay. The last but not the least, if the patient is having a silicone oil. Okay. Yusuf, I am coming to your question. If the patient is having silicone oil inside, then what should be the IOL power? So the IOL power that you calculate, whatever you calculate with your normal formulas, just add +3 to +3.5 there. Okay, why you add +3 to +3.5 there in the normal IOL calculation? The reason is silicone oil is having high viscosity. Is it clear, everyone? So you have to add +3 to +3.5 in that cases. Is it clear, everyone? So now I go to Yusuf's question again. Let's say the patient is having a LASIK. So LASIK, the first formula that you use is Hagee's formula. The second formula you use a ASCRS calculator, and the third formula you can use is a Gaussian optics formula. Okay, GOSSIAN, Gaussian optics formula. Is it clear, Dr. Yusuf? Okay, so the last and the not least is, before I end this session, those students who have attended this session, still if you have doubt in the question segment or any option, you can personally message to me in an Academy Telegram app or through the app. Or if you want PDF in combined in 5 or 6 pages, you can also that get free of cost from me. Okay, this is the thing that as a medico, as your brother, as your senior, I can revert back to you. Thank you very much for attending the session. Please like the session. Thank you very much and good night. All of you are more than welcome with your all comments and with all your feedback. It would be great if you give a 2 or 3 words of enthusiasm to us. Your good feedback would give a lot of confidence to young people like me. Thank you very much. Good night, Jai Hind, and stay safe.